Main Street USA at Walt Disney World is meant to be an idealized slice of turn-of-the-century Americana. It's got an old-timey barbershop where you can actually get your hair cut, it's got a matching quartet, it features a confectionery, a firehouse, and even a train station. It's meant to be a concentrated form of what Walt Disney thought of when he thought of old-time America. So it's no surprise that Main Street USA also features a baseball-themed hot dog restaurant. But it's not just any baseball-themed hot dog restaurant, it's a baseball-themed hot dog restaurant inspired by a famous 133-year-old poem. On June 3, 1888, the San Francisco Daily Examiner published a poem on page 4 of their paper. It was called Casey at the Bat, a ballad of the Republic sung in the year 1888, and it was written by a poet who was only credited as Finn. Finn, in actuality, was Ernest Thayer, who was working for the Daily Examiner at the time as a writer. The poem chronicles a baseball team in which the home team from the fictional town of Mudville is about to lose. However, with one out left, the team's star player Casey is at bat. I did consider reading the whole poem since it's only 4 or 5 minutes, but I felt like it might unnecessarily pad this video, and if I'm being honest, there's a version of the poem on YouTube that's narrated by James Earl Jones, and there's no way I could compete with that. So how did this random poem about baseball published in a newspaper on a random Sunday become so famous? Well, one of the readers of the poem that Sunday was a British-American novelist by the name of Archibald Clavering Gunter. Archibald Clavering Gunter, whose name I'm going to read in full because with a name like Archibald Clavering Gunter you kinda have to, enjoyed the poem so much that he cut it out of the paper and showed it to a friend of his. Archibald Clavering Gunter's friend was DeWolf Hopper, a vaudeville actor, a Broadway actor, and later in life a screen actor. Hopper loved the poem and thought it would make for great material to perform in between the acts of a play he was in at Wallack's Theatre in New York. So that's exactly what he did.
Oh, that Casey. I hate Casey. What a damn thing.
The audiences, they loved it. Baseball by that point was already considered a national pastime, with early versions of the game being played as far back as the 1820s. By the 1840s and 50s, the game became more formalized, and in the 1860s it began to grow as a spectator sport. Hopper would later estimate that over the course of his 47-year career after that poem's publishing, he recited Casey at the Bat over 10,000 times to audiences. That repetition created a snowball effect that launched the poem into popularity. Over the 130 years after the poem's publishing, it has been adapted and referenced countless times in books, television, film, comics, and even video games.
All right. And how do we spell Casey? Is it like at the bat or and the Sunshine Band?
In 1946, it was adapted by Disney for their anthology film Make Mine Music. And then in 1954, Disney, who is often cited as not one to make sequels back then, made a sequel back then titled Casey Bats Again. Of course, that wouldn't be the last time that Disney would reference the poem. In 1992, with the opening of Euro Disney in France, Casey at the Bat was the thematic anchor of a hot dog restaurant along Main Street. It was a perfect match. Hot dogs were a staple of baseball games, and both were a staple of American culture. On top of that, the late 1800s popularity of the poem aligned with the turn-of-the-century period of the land. It was a successful enough concept that in 1995 it was brought over to Florida, when the Coca-Cola Refreshment Corner was rethemed to Casey's Corner. In addition to various baseball references, the building's establishment year for the restaurant is 1888 to honor the year the poem was published. The scoreboard inside also references Casey's team, Mudville, and even has the score of 4-2 to match the score from the poem. Lastly, the menu board features Casey and the pitcher from the Disney adaptation. Casey at the Bat was referenced one more time over at Disney's California Adventure in 2009 when a number of boardwalk games in Paradise Pier were rethemed, including one called Casey at the Bat. To many, I imagine, Casey's Corner is just that hot dog place at the end of Main Street. It serves its function. It blends in with the land well. But underneath that function and baseball theming is a cool little nod to a little piece of American poetry history.